Hello guys, welcome back to the video, and I hope everyone's having a great day. If you are new, welcome to my channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want to. Even though you should if you want to. We're back with part 2 of the July compilation of Wansee Entertainment 21 Horror Stories Animated. Let's get back in part 2.
A few years ago, my mom, my younger sister, and I went out for dinner at a local restaurant one night. As we were walking on the sidewalk towards the restaurant, I noticed a man walking towards us from the opposite direction. Well, I can say that this was normal, but there was sort of a creepy vibe about him. He looked like he was in his mid-50s. He was tall and had a dirty beard. He was also bald. Anyway, we walked inside the restaurant, and the waiter led us to a table. Then, a few minutes later, the same man from the sidewalk walked in and sat at a table close to ours, which was so
facial expressions.
I thought this was weird, but when our meals came out, I just swept away any doubts about him. While we were eating, I noticed that he was staring at me the whole time. I tried to ignore him. When my sister and I were almost finished eating, the waiter came up to us and said to my mom, "Ma'am, don't worry, your bill has been paid." My mom was confused and asked him what he meant. And he said that the man who was sitting next to our table had offered to pay the bill for us. Although this was a cheap restaurant, my mom refused the offer and explained that she was creeped out by that man. The waiter soon nodded and went to go get our bill. When he left, the man slowly walked towards us, opened a strange duffel bag he was carrying, and pulled out 2 stuffed animals. The shapes of the stuffed animals were totally crushed, and I didn't realize that it was an animal at first. It was the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my life. My heart started beating faster when he came over to our table and gave the stuffed animals to me and my sister. Being a 5-year-old girl, my sister was going to say yes, but my mom and I both interrupted and refused. Then
he killed those animals and stuffed them.
He walked back
shame on you, man.
And sat down. After the waiter came back with our bill, my mom explained what just happened. The waiter said that the man paid for his meal, so it wasn't possible to kick him out. However, the waiter said that he would follow us out of the restaurant.
Oh, there's a stalker, creepy, pedophile guy
later that night, when we came back
stalking
home,
us. Oh, he paid his bill, so we're not gonna do anything.
I was still feeling uncomfortable. I just laid there, and when I looked at the clock, it was around 2 a.m. All of a sudden, I heard someone walking outside my window. It was the fall season, so all the dead leaves would make loud
the window's wide open, girl.
Whenever someone walked on them. At first, I assumed that it might have been some type of animal. However, I abruptly remembered the man from the restaurant and began to feel scared. The sound of footsteps was getting closer, and I shut my eyes as tight as I possibly could. Knock, knock, knock. I heard someone knock on my window 3 times. Slowly, I froze. I knew that it was a red flag and that I shouldn't open my eyes. But I opened my eyes cautiously. Then my heart dropped. The man at the restaurant was peeking through my window. With his glaring eyes, his eyes were fixed on me and looked me up and down. I couldn't scream at all. I just lay there, praying that it must be a dream. However, he didn't do any harm to me. He just stood there watching me and then walked away after a while. I didn't get any sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I explained to my mom what happened yesterday, and she called the police right away. However, although the police searched all over the area, they couldn't find him. They didn't know who that creeper was or what he wanted, but I'll never forget that night.
Mysterious happening.
My name is Eric. I'm 31 years old, as well as a single dad living in a 1-story house with my son, named Alex.
Good for you,
It all started the night before Christmas, when Alex was 5 years old. Alex was so excited, so we decided to go for a walk around our town. We were walking down our road listening to the sound of carolers in the distance. That led us all the way down to the main street. When we came face to face with the three old women singing, I took out my phone trying to record a story for my Instagram, just like other people around us. When I looked down, I saw my son covering his ears. I stopped recording, crouched down, and asked him what was wrong, but he didn't answer. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see the middle woman of the three carolers was giving my son an evil grin with a large, creepy smile. She seemed a little bit weird. Well, it was a chilly December night, so I decided
They
we
put
would
an
head
X
back
on y'all.
anyway.
You're able to run out of there.
When we reached home, my son looked relieved. So I thought he just wanted to go watch TV and catch up on his episode he thought that he might miss. Later, as I was cooking in the kitchen, I took a glance at my son, and I could see that he looked absolutely terrified.
No.
He was sitting straight up on the couch, which faced the TV. There was a large window next to the couch that had the curtains slightly open. Then he sprinted up quickly, ran to me, and just hugged my leg. "Daddy, she's here," he told me with a shivering voice, and I replied, "Who?" He exclaimed back, "The middle woman we saw when we watched the caroling." I quickly looked at the window, and there really was that old lady we saw not too long ago. I closed my eyes for about 1
My
second,
God.
and when I opened my eyes again, she completely vanished. Being freaked out, I called 911 naturally, telling them about what had just happened. There were 3 cops that showed up, so I explained the incident to them again, and one of the cops showed me a photograph that looked kind of old to me. She was in there.
Oh.
Then she pointed to that old lady, asking if this was her. And I answered yes. She started laughing.
She's dead?
My son looked confused until I asked why she was laughing. She stopped and gave us a kind of serious look this time, but was still smiling. Then she said, "Hey, you know what? I know this is weird, but this woman died 3 years ago, on this exact same day." My heart
Go
dropped.
figure. Go
That's when
figure.
my son looked terrified too. I tried to calm him down, but I couldn't believe what was going on. The other 2 cops came inside and said they found no trace of anything while searching. It made no sense. When the cops had left our house, I put my son into his bed and went to my room. I turned the light on my nightstand that was close to the side, grabbed my phone, and decided to check Instagram, thinking that if I could find anything, I would just call the cops back. I opened my story, and to my surprise, I couldn't find that old lady in there. I checked another story, and then checked another again. But in fact, it was just 2 women there singing.
Oh.
Feeling mixed emotions like scared, mad, and even more, stupid.
Wow.
I started checking some other people's stories from around my neighborhood.
Ghost in the flesh.
And still, she wasn't there. But all of a sudden, I realized something. When I was checking some story feeds, I ran into one story of some woman who was standing right next to me during the caroling.
It was on her phone?
Where my son and I should have been standing was replaced by nothing. It was like we weren't even there from the beginning.
Are y'all
I
even
couldn't
real?
believe what I'd just seen. I put a hand over my mouth and couldn't say anything. That night, that Christmas day became the most terrible moment for us. Well, I'm 33 now, and my son is now 7 years old. But even if everybody thinks that it doesn't sound true at all, we both still remember it like it was yesterday.
I can't believe what my husband did to me. What?
My name is Samantha. I'm just a regular woman with a husband and 2 kids. I met my husband at the high school we both attended, and we got married after graduation.
Oh, high school
I got
sweethearts.
pregnant shortly
Too bad I don't
after,
have that.
and had to get a cesarean section during my delivery. Luckily, both babies and I are in good health. We have been living a happy life. However, something creepy happened to me a few days ago. Well, Kate became crazy. Kate was one of my best friends since high school, and I've always known her to be a nice, shy, and pretty quiet girl. A few weeks ago, we had our school reunion. I met my classmates again after about 10 years since graduation. Everything went fine, and we had a good time until Kate joined us. When she came in, she looked like she hadn't slept in several weeks and
Ew.
smelled really bad. Everyone just stood there, frozen, until Kate took out a knife from her pocket.
Oh, my
Everyone
God.
screamed,
My God. Throw
and
the
then
glass
she
at her.
ran towards my direction. Samantha, you'll die for what you did to me. All of a sudden, the police entered through the big glass sliding door and jumped on Kate. The chills hit me as she growled like a dog. Then the police said that she had some kind of mental problem and just escaped from a mental asylum a few hours ago. I had no idea what was wrong with her, and I was just wondering what had happened to her. And I felt really sorry for her because she had changed so much.
What
A few
happened,
days
girl? What
later,
happened? What's
someone
good? What's
called
good?
me on my phone. It was an old lady claiming that she was a nurse at the local mental asylum. She wanted
That's
to
so
talk to
sad,
me
man.
about something related to Kate. Since I had nothing to do, I decided to visit the asylum. As soon as I got there, the old lady greeted me, and she guided me into a room divided by a window, like the meeting rooms in jails. On the other side,
Wait, am I tripping
there she
or?
was, Kate. She was
They
tied
said I
up
can't
to
believe
a
what my
chair.
husband did to me.
I could hear her continuously mumble. Then the old woman walked in and said, "He is here, sweetie." As Kate slowly looked up and into my eyes, she started to scream at me with wide open and bloody big eyes. "They are mine. You stole them. You must suffer for it." I didn't understand what was happening. What was Kate talking about? Then the old lady returned next to me and said,
I don't know
"Miss
too.
Samantha, you have a husband and 2 kids, right?" I
Oh.
nodded. She sighed and then whispered, "Well, I have to say this. One of them is not yours." My heart sank as she continued. "You said that you had a cesarean section before, but half of your memory is not true. One boy is her kid. To be more specific, he's Kate and your husband's son. Just after she gave birth, she got a huge shock and threw her baby to the ground, which eventually made the workers in the hospital suspect that she was not stable. That's why she has
what?
been in this room since that very day, except for a few days ago, when she escaped to the reunion, back to the kids. Since Kate was locked in this place, your husband took the kid. He fooled you to believe that both are your kids. Kate finally noticed that her baby was gone, so she escaped from here to find you and your husband."
So
I
he was
just
sleeping
stood
both of them
there
at the same
in a
time,
state
like.
of shock, just staring at her empty eyes. My husband was a kind person, but now I finally realized he lied to me and even cheated on me with my ex-best friend.
Well, your best
returned to
friend
my
should
home,
have.
and since then I haven't told anyone about this yet. Well, to be more specific, I couldn't. Both my kids still believe that I'm their real mom. If I reveal to my husband the fact that I know all of this, my family will be ruined. So, what should I do?
You should leave. Leave. Or tell his parent, if his parents not around, leave, leave, leave. Tell him, hey, I know what's up with you. I know you've been cheating with me with my friend, and your friend should get checked too. Well, she already checked. Because that's not right for your friend to That's what I say. It's not right for your friend to engage in your boyfriend who you were seeing. I just don't get it. And she been crazy. Like something just tricked her in her head. True story about my hunter.
This happened when I was around 7 years old. My parents have been divorced since I was 4, and I stayed with my mom. 3 years later, when my mom got married again, we moved out of our small apartment and rented a bigger one. It was pretty nice. It had a huge living room that was connected to a kitchen with no doors, so I could see the inside of the kitchen while I was sitting in the living room. As we were about to spend our first night in the new apartment, I decided to stay in the living room alone and watch some TV before going to bed. 1 or 2 hours later, I finally got tired and began dozing off. However, as soon as I began to fall asleep, I started hearing noises coming from the kitchen. It sounded as if the cabinets were opening, the plates were being moved around, and knives were being sharpened. At first, I thought that my mom was in the kitchen, but when I opened my eyes and turned around, there was no one there. I even got up and went to the kitchen, and as I turned on the lights, everything was in its place. So I tried going back to sleep. But after all that, I kept waking up due to several nightmares. Sometimes I would even beg my stepdad to stay with me until I fell asleep, but he didn't hear any noises coming from the kitchen and didn't take me too seriously. Well, this went on until we started smelling something weird inside the living room. It wasn't as bad at first, but as the days went by, the stench got worse. It smelled as if something was rotting. We turned the whole house upside down trying to find the source of it, until we realized it was coming from the wall. We figured that a rat or something died inside the wall.
It's a big old hole.
So we hired someone to get that thing out of there. But what the guy told us was shocking. There was no space in the wall. It was all brick. Furthermore, the only thing that was behind the wall was the outside. At that moment, my parents remembered the noises I heard and the nightmares. They asked a priest to come visit us and pray for the house. So when he arrived at our house,
so they automatically
he
think
and
something.
sprayed some holy water around,
I would have assumed that
but it
too.
didn't seem to do anything. A few weeks later, my
Get
mom
some
went
sage,
into labor
Palo
and had my baby
get
brother.
some crystals.
He would cry so much in his sleep that his face would often turn blue and red. Crying at night is usually common behavior for babies, but this was more extreme. My parents were both sleep deprived, and the living room still reeked of something rotten, like a dead body. So I had to sleep in my stepdad's office room.
No.
We couldn't stand being there anymore. So the next day, we asked a psychic for help. When she came into our house, she walked around with one of those aroma sticks. The smoke was grayish white as she walked from room to room, but as soon as she entered the living room, it turned. She then started reading some prayers and spells and told us that someone was killed in this apartment. She also said that the ghosts were feeling uncomfortable with our presence, and they especially didn't like kids. Then she pointed at me and my baby brother. After she left our home, we were all terrified. So my parents called the person who we rented the apartment from and confronted him about what we just learned. To our surprise, he confessed that it was true and apologized for giving us that haunted apartment for a very cheap price. After that, we moved out and the paranormal activity was not experienced again. However, this memory gives me chills up to this day.
Wow, I'm gonna stop it right there. Let me tell you something. If it's a ghost or you, like, if I'm renting an apartment and you know everything about the house, you need to tell me everything up front. And that's your job. If it's haunted, get some type of priest, some type of spiritual guru to get rid of that negative energy. Or just tell me about it up front. Don't tell me about it but I'm living here, and a ghost is not gonna run me out of my house. No, 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 sorry. No ghost is gonna run me out of my house. That is number one thing. The number one thing is don't touch mine. I don't care if you're a ghost, evil ghost. You're not gonna touch mine. No, you're not going to touch mine. So thank you guys again for tuning to this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want to, even though you should, but if you want to. But thank you again for tuning to this video. And like I always say, stay awesome, stay positive, stay safe out there, and it's your life. Do what you want and do it positively. Peace.